One other guy, you mentioned there's skillful fighters out there. One guy that I do think is skillful, Terence Crawford. Obviously.
Terence Crawford has been underrated all his life, even to the point of his boxing skill and power. Over and over again, the world champion from Omaha has tried to prove himself to the boxing world, especially with his ninth-round knockout win over Errol Spencer. But surprisingly, even Floyd Mayweather doesn't have a full idea of Terence Crawford's greatness until now after a training session with him.
Terence Crawford position, is it time for him to move up? I think what he thinks like, I really super.
Pair trained as Terence Crawford prepared to face Canelo Alvarez, after which they both engaged in a sparring session where Terence Crawford dominated Floyd Mayweather and hurt him with his skill and punch power. The sparring was a shocking revelation to Floyd Mayweather, who had no choice but to admit Terence Crawford's prowess.
And I'm gonna tell y'all the truth about Canelo. Easy, man. Cakewalk. Easy. Y'all sitting up here, y'all praising this dude. This dude was nothing. I was almost 40 years old when I cooked this dude.
Terence Crawford decided to involve Floyd Mayweather in his preparation for his fight against Canelo Alvarez later this year, and the undefeated boxing legend was nothing short of impressed on seeing how improved Terence Crawford was. Floyd Mayweather had no doubts that Canelo would be put to sleep when the fight comes, adding to his already perfect skill set. Floyd Mayweather taught Crawford some defensive techniques to avoid being hit by the bigger music man. The shoulder roll was one of them, while he also demonstrated some footworks for Crawford to imitate. It's interesting to see that Crawford is prepared for both Canelo's attack and defense, whichever style he brings. The undefeated pound-for-pound king believes he would be able to do some damage on Canelo. Talking after the training, Floyd Mayweather brought back talks of his fight against Canelo Alvarez many years ago and claimed he sees so many similarities between himself then and Terence Crawford, now implying that the result won't be any different than what it was 12 years ago. Mayweather fought Canelo in a World Boxing Council and World Boxing Association light middleweight showdown in September 2013. It was the 45th contest of the American's glittering career, coming up against the young Mexican, who was facing his toughest challenge to date. It was seen as a tough test for Mayweather heading in, but it turned out to be a one-sided affair as the American claimed the victory on points, even if the scorecards had it much closer than most boxing fans. Money dominated the fight throughout, using his skills and expertise to outclass Canelo over 12 rounds to claim a majority decision victory. Despite being the clear winner at the end of the contest, Judge C.J. Ross scored at 114, which baffled many of those in attendance, including Mayweather. Speaking to Fight Hype, the 47-year-old did not hold back when talking about Canelo's boxing ability, initially summing up in 3 words how the fight went. He was nothing. Mayweather then explained further what he thinks of the Mexican's ability. You can take a guy like Canelo. I'll tell the truth about Canelo. The idiot was easy to cakewalk easy. You're all praising this dude. He was nothing. I was almost 40, and I cooked this dude easily.
When I fought Canelo, I was 36, and Canelo was 23, around the same age. Some of these guys.
Mayweather retired just a few years later, but over a decade on, Canelo remains one of the biggest names in boxing, securing world titles at middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight, and even becoming undisputed in the 168 pounds weight class after tasting defeat for the first time against Mayweather. Canelo went on to win his next 15 fights, winning world titles at middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavy. In the process, he now looks set to take part in another huge boxing clash, with a clash against fellow pound-for-pound Craig Crawford, believed to be agreed for later in the year.
It's really that they don't want. It's not that they don't want to see Tank win because they feel like it's beating me because I dominated the fight game for so long. But these same fighters out here, they praise Canelo. He can pick and choose who he want to fight.
Observers believe the weight difference could be too much for Crawford, who would be jumping up from 154 pounds to 168 pounds for the fight, having only competed once in the super welterweight division. Due to Canelo being a naturally much bigger man than Crawford, many feel that it could result in a big knockout win for the Mexican, similar to when he took on a much smaller opponent in Air Khan, who had also moved up 2 divisions for the fight. With that in mind, Mayweather gave his verdict on what he thought of Canelo's power following their fight after he was asked if it concerned him heading into the bout. Not at all.
World titles. It was undisputed champ, I think. So, the Tank age, the young champions.
He then said, in the ring, it was nothing he hadn't felt before. It's nothing I never felt before after being in the sport for over 20 years. Mayweather's comments may give Crawford confidence, especially with Canelo failing to stop his last 5 opponents. The 34-year-old from Guadalajara, Mexico, currently holds the Unified World Boxing Council, World Boxing Association, and World Boxing Organization titles at 168 PBS as he looks set to defend his crown against fellow pound-for-pound superstar Terence "Bud" Crawford later this year, in what could be one of the biggest fights in the long history of boxing. Canelo's only other career defeat came in 2022, when he was beaten comprehensively by the former WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol.
Canelo was 23 with 43 fights and 30 knockouts. And the world said he was inexperienced. I was 36.
Even more interesting was that after Mayweather and Crawford met, Eddie Hearn was also at the training camp to support Shakur Stevenson. Hence, it was becoming a small meeting of the biggest names in boxing. They say that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But in the times we live in, and with so many witnesses to what happens, especially if celebrities are present, it is difficult to keep it secret. And if you add to that equation the name of Floyd Mayweather, it is impossible to hide it. It turns out that a recent meeting between Money and the famous promoter Eddie Hearn in a gym in Sin City sparks. And although the whole moment was wrapped in jocular comments, this does not mean that they were not throwing each other.
With 40-something fights. And to tell you the truth, I was over the hill. And so when I fight guys, when I'm in my 30s,
It should be remembered that Hearn was repeating some time ago in every space he was given that Floyd Mayweather had no money, or at least not the money he claims to have, and that this was why he was performing or looking for exhibition fights. Money earned so much during his stellar boxing career, pocketing in excess of $1.2 billion in total earnings, including from his lucrative paydays against Manny Pacquiao and Conor McGregor. Widespread reports indicate that Mayweather's current total net worth is around $400 million, which has allowed him to live an extravagant lifestyle outside of the squared circle. Despite retiring from the professional ranks in 2017, Mayweather has been fighting in a series of remunerative exhibitions against some lesser opposition, including D.
I like Eddie. So one day somebody, because you know I don't have social media on my phone, so they showed me Eddie. Eddie was like, "Boy, Mayweather ain't got no."
Boxing legend has repeatedly insisted he is earning 8-figure paydays from each, even going as far as to nickname them legalized bank robberies. But when explaining why he was accepting the showman-style events, he insisted it was to continue to build his generational wealth. Matchroom boxing promoter Hearn made the suggestion in multiple interviews that Mayweather's net worth wasn't the same as many expected due to his plush purchases. He said, "I don't think he's got the money." He says, "That's what I think. I don't think he needs the money. But you know, you've got that lifestyle when he's spending what he's spending. Don't worry about that. But me and Eddie got it clear. Me and my buddy got it clear. We said, as long as it's 10 or 20, no problem. Anything less." The climax came when Money ran into him in Las Vegas and confronted him about it. The undefeated former boxer.
Mother ain't got no money. That's why he's doing exhibitions. No, Eddie don't believe that. No.
But Eddie will say some shit like that.
Yeah, he will say some shit. But no. But one thing, don't worry about that. But me and Eddie got it clear. Me and my buddy got it clear. He said,
claimed that Kern sometimes makes those kinds of comments, and that they had even already cleared it up, so they began to joke, as if the news had been real, to make jokes and to throw themselves at each other again, while their respective groups of friends celebrated what was said by both. The pair crossed paths in Las Vegas at a boxing gym as they watched some sparring, as they were both in town for the fight between Diego Paco and Steve Nelson. Mayweather jokingly began in a conversation, "So one day somebody said, 'cause you know I don't have social media on my phone, so they showed me Eddie can't be less than 10. Then we're struggling for money. I had to show Eddie some of the account. Eddie was like, Floyd Mayweather jar ain't got no money. That's why he doing exhibitions. Eddie don't believe that I know." He says some stuff like that. But me and Eddie got it clear. Mayweather had a smug grin across his face, as did Hearn, and the pair then shook hands. The promoter then responded, "Yeah, as long as it is 10 or 20 years, no problem. Anything less, it can't be less than 10. The gag sent Mayweather bursting out laughing with a member of his team, as it was abundantly clear there were no hard feelings. Imagine how much money Floyd Mayweather would have made if I was his promoter. No, what I Mayweather jar mentioned that he had even shown his bank accounts to Hearn. Mayweather then clarified, "Listen, I had to show Eddie some of my accounts." Hearn then concluded, imagine how much Floyd Mayweather would have made if I was his promoter. Do you know what I'm saying? Mayweather is clearly not short of cash, and it is no wonder given his remarkable spending spree in recent months. The boxing legend has invested heavily in real estate, including his biggest ever $42 million purchase of a series of apartment blocks. They say that many a true word is spoken in justice, but at least in reality, and in the light of the facts this does not apply to Money, who remains one of the richest former sportsmen in the world. It is currently unclear if he has any more exhibitions lined up, but he has continued to be linked to lucrative return bouts. Hearn never promoted Mayweather, but likely wishes he did given the star power of the American as Keeson Davis gears up for the biggest fight of his career. All eyes are on the rising lightweight prospect. On February 14th, Davis will face Ukrainian Denis Binik for the World Boxing Organization lightweight title. This will mark his first ever title bout. Stop. I'm definitely waiting for that time because soon as they release whenever they fight, I'm definitely going to be in camp with them. First of all, I'm going to be in camp with him. I'll probably be fighting around the same during his media workout surrounded by cameras and microphones. The businessman was poised to talk about his upcoming clash, but the conversation quickly took a turn when the topic shifted to another mega fight, Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford, with the 25-year-old also training under Crawford's longtime trainer Brian Basie. McIntyre Keen's take on the fight stirred up quite a storm. Standing beside him during the interview was Bernie Davis, also known as Bernie the Boxer. He's a former pro fighter who now trains with the trio. The conversation seemed lighthearted at first, however, Khan's response left fans scratching their heads when asked about the September fight in Las Vegas time. So I just want to know how I'm going to schedule my things around his stuff, because I definitely want to be there supporting my teammate, man, my brother. At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, I definitely want to be there supporting him. So while at his media workout, Keeson Davis was caught off guard when a reporter from Fight Hub TV asked who in Khan's eyes would reign supreme in this era, Canelo or Crawford. Without hesitation, Keeson replied, for this generation, he is going to be the greatest. You know what I am saying, it was Floyd Mayweather. Then it's going to be Terence Crawford. Keen believes Bud Crawford will be the next face of boxing, following in the footsteps of Floyd Mayweather, who retired in 2017, while Canelo is widely regarded as the current face of the sport. The 25-year-old remains firm in his belief that Crawford is the true successor. Hopefully, they fight out here in Vegas. That would be so crazy. They fight out here in Vegas. They need to fight out here in Vegas. There's no other place where they should fight at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying. So hopefully if I hear it Vegas, man, I just can't wait till they release the interviewer, likely aware of the stakes of such a bold opinion. Pressed further, that's what's on the line with that fight, right? Canelo and Terence, whose era is it at this point? Bernie stepped in, offering his perspective. I think Canelo had his time, it's just going to be our time, he said with a smile. Keeson, showing support for his friend, added, for sure. Fans, who are no strangers to heated debates in the boxing world, were quick to react. While they were confident in Crawford, others were far less enthused, and that's when the criticisms came pouring. The announcement, for sure, how difficult of a fight is that for Bud, and what does Bud have to do to win that fight? Oh, he just got to be smart. He got to be smart, and I feel like he's got to beat Canelo to the punches. You know what I'm saying, use his ability. One user sarcastically posted, Canelo is going to pass the torch to a 37-year-old. While age doesn't automatically diminish a fighter's ability, it's worth noting that Canelo Alvarez is still at the top of his game. After all, boasting a record of February 2nd 62 is not an easy feat. Some fans responded with more biting commentary, calling Keen's take stupidity level 1000. This reaction likely stems from Canelo Alvarez's unmatched resume in boxing. The Mexican champion has accomplished what many believe to be impossible, including becoming the first undisputed super middleweight champion and defeating legends in multiple weight classes. One of the harshest criticisms came from a fan who pointed out that Terence Crawford had yet to demonstrate the same knockout power as Canelo. Is his skill, his wisdom, you know what I'm saying, and just be smart in there, man. God willing, of course, he going to come out and the victory, man, and both guys going to go home. You know Canelo ain't passing the torch to a fighter who couldn't hurt a fighter with 10 fights or even drop him. Canelo dropped Monja and Berlanga here. The user pointed out Canelo's victories against Hain Monja for the International Boxing Federation, World Boxing Council, and World Boxing Organization World Super Middle titles, and Edgar Berlanga for the World Boxing Council and World Boxing Organization World Super Middle titles. However, one must not forget Terence Crawford also stands at a record of 41-0-31 KOs, with continuous knockout victories for the past few years. Pass the torch, another user asked. Bro, you got to work on defense, you're getting hit too much in the head. A jab at Kishan's style seemed to strike a chord as fans pointed out that Davis had yet to prove himself at the same level as Canelo Alvarez. No major injuries and stuff like that at the end of the day. But I know Bud is going to go in there and get the victory for sure. I'm sure you're not looking past Dennis Pinnock, obviously a very capable fighter. But that said, the 25-year-old is still early in his professional career and has a lot of time to refine his defensive skills. With a coach like back on the side, Kishan's defense could improve drastically. The criticism didn't end there. Some took it a step further, joking about Kishan's appearance, writing, Kishan looks like he could have $1 million and still stink. Ouch. However, it's worth noting that these kinds of criticisms often reflect a broader frustration that fans may have with a fighter's public persona. Finally, fans brought up Terence Crawford's fight with Israel Madrimov, asking what makes him think he's going to beat Canelo when he was struggling against Madrimov. I hope it's not in, cause I hate getting on long-ass flights. That's just me personally. I hope it's out here in Vegas. Bring that __ to Allegiant Stadium. Man, yeah, is that the biggest fight in boxing? The comparison to his struggles with former contender Israel Madrimov seemed to be a heavy blow to Bud's credibility. The 4-division champion won the fight in a unanimous decision. However, it was indeed a hard-fought bout. Canelo, unified super middleweight world champion, had previously dismissed the call-out by his fellow 4-division titless Crawford, who last fought at super welterweight. Enters Saudi Arabia's Turki Al Sheikh, who appears to have made good progress in getting the bout made, speaking in late 2023 to fight Hub TV veteran promoter Aram gave his former charge Crawford no chance due to the massive weight gap. Hell, yes, what's bigger than that? Like for real, like hell yeah. That's the biggest fight in boxing for sure. Tell me you what when you hear everyone talk about the fight, the matchup. I think Canelo wipes the floor with him. I love Crawford. I told you when Crawford was fighting Spence that Crawford would beat the hell out of him. But Canelo is a different proposition. It's an interesting fight, but I think there's only one winner. Canelo is used to fighting at a particular level, and I don't think that Terence can hurt Canelo, but Canelo can hurt Terence. However, more recently, Aram told Fight Hype that he can't count Crawford out, even despite having to pack on 14 pounds for the challenge. What's the biggest thing that you disagree with people? Music. On how much they count Terence. What's the thing that you hear the most? If Canelo hits some clean, I wouldn't count Crawford out in any fight, because Crawford has a unique talent. He's a great boxer, puncher, and he is totally ambidextrous. So he drives his opponent crazy because the opponent trains to fight a right-handed fighter and ends up fighting a southpaw. That's what happened to Errol Spence. Spence trained to fight a right-handed fighter, and all he saw was a southpaw. I think Crawford is looking for Manny Pacquiao versus De La Hoya. Since his fight against Crawford last year, the truth hasn't fought in over a year, even though a rumored fight against Sebastian Fundora is being negotiated for later this year. It could happen. Why not? Proper want to challenge himself to be great. Let him try to be great, So what I'm saying. I'm with it. So regardless, Spence actually had the opportunity to activate his rematch clause with Crawford, but chose not to. Whether it's because he needs more time to prepare for Crawford or has lost hope, Spence sure knows how formidable Terence Crawford is, according to a tweet from TalkSport editor Michael Benson. The truth spoke on a potential fight between Crawford and Canelo. I'd definitely be going Crawford. I think if anybody can pull it off, he can pull it off. He's chasing greatness. So why not? Canelo came up the 175. And in all that, he said if Crawford wants to challenge himself to be great, let him try to be great. I'm with it. As for who he thinks will win, Spence's words exuded confidence in his former opponent. I'd be going for Bud. I don't know if he'd win or lose, but if anybody can pull it off, he can pull it off, Spence added. And that's all for now.